Hey, what's up guys? Me, David, Laugh Now, Die Later, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about Flowers of Evil with my boy, the Oshimi God, Blue Tempest. What's up, bro?
How's it going, man?
It's
Blue
good, man.
Tempest here. If you guys don't know me, I'm a pretty new manga tuber, but yeah, man. Thank you for having me on this video, man.
Oh, thank you for joining me, man. Link to his channel is going to be in the description. Of course, if he ever wants any other links in the description, like his Instagram and stuff, definitely check that down below. Without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So, Shuzo Oshimi, probably one of my favorite mangaka because of this man right here. We've been talking on Instagram since we've met for like a few months now, and he's definitely recommended Blood on the Tracks and of course Flowers of Evil to me, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And without any further ado, I want you to take it away and tell me, what did you like and dislike, if you have any dislikes, for this series.
So I do want to say that this video is gonna contain spoilers.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So personally, I feel like with all of Shuzo Oshimi's works, it's best going in blind, especially with Flowers of Evil, especially with Blood on the Tracks. Um, I just feel like the stories are just work well in that in just not knowing anything beforehand. So with that being said, if you have not read The Flowers of Evil, uh, you can come back to this video after you've read it. Definitely read it. If there's one thing I gotta say, it is that it is absolutely worth reading. So, yeah, that's the spoiler warning. From here on out, there will be um, spoilers.
Yes, there's gonna be spoilers. Thank you for that, because I completely forgot to do that. But anyway,
It's
yeah.
all good,
So,
man.
did you have any dislikes in this series?
I did not. Um,
Exactly. So,
um,
what did you like
so
exactly?
yeah, because if if anyone here has watched my reading logs and like just any videos on my channel talking about the Flowers of Evil, I always hype it up and I always say that it's a masterpiece. And yeah, I'm not kidding about that. When I read it, I genuinely had uh, no problems with the series whatsoever. Personally, I think it's a 10 out of 10 manga. Um, and as far as like everything I've read, it's definitely in my top five. So, um, as far as what I liked, I mean, obviously everything, but uh, but to get more into specific details, I think that just the type of story that this is really resonated with me personally,
Hmm.
um, just because of how it's a coming of age story, and this might be a weird comparison to make, but Foolie Cooley, I don't know if you watch Foolie Cooley,
No, I
but
haven't.
okay. So that's one of my favorite anime series of all time.
Hmm.
Um you should definitely watch it. Laugh.
I got
But
you.
yeah, it's really good. It's really weird though, but that is also a coming of age story. But it's just really crazy, really weird. Um Sometimes I would say you have to watch it like multiple times to really understand what's going on sometimes. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of that aspect of it being a coming of age story, but with just like a weird, crazy twist to it. And yeah, like that aspect of the story really resonated with me. I love the characters, obviously, I think are really well written. The artwork is fantastic. Um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
what about
mean,
you, man? What's your take on the series?
so for me right now, it's a 9.5, but it wasn't always a 9.5. I told my boy Blue Tempest here before we started recording that when I read the first two books, the omnibuses, um, I kind of was going into that with a mindset of it having that uncomfortable feeling that Blood on the Tracks gave me. Shameless plug, if you haven't seen my Blood on the Tracks video, check it out. Um, but I was expecting that to be sort of like Blood on the Tracks because of like what other people told me and everything like that. So when I after reading those first two omnibuses, I was like, okay, this isn't really what I was expecting. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't what I was expecting with the expectations that was given to me from other people. So what I did was I took about a half a day off from reading it. I was like, listen, I've heard so many great things about this. Let me just take a day, change my mindset, just go back into it with an open mind. And as soon as I started doing that, man, it went from being below Blood on the Tracks for me to being above Blood on the Tracks for me. And it just did so many things to me, especially in the second half, that made me appreciate that first half that I didn't enjoy during that first read. And we're gonna get into like some of the things that Oshimi does well. When it comes to dislikes, I don't have any. I think the dislike was that I wasn't expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be like Blood on the Tracks. That was my dislike, but then
Yeah.
that dislike kind of turned into nothing when I read that second half with an open mind. So yeah, don't expect it to be like Blood on the Tracks. That's my warning to all of you that have read Blood on the Tracks first. It's not completely different. There are tiny similarities, but it's its own complete thing, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. As with all of Oshimi's works, there's bound to be similarities. I think that the cool thing though is that each of his works are really different from each other and just immerse you in a world that's, you know what I mean? Um, that's just different, each time. So, as far as like the Flowers of Evil, yeah, I think if you come into it with different expectations, I could see that affecting your reading experience, especially coming after something like Blood on the Tracks, which
Yeah.
is it's just a wild ride, and it's I mean it's a really unsettling manga. Um, it's really messed up, but uh, yeah, Flowers of Evil is just different. It's there's definitely messed up things that
of
happen.
of course, yeah.
Um, but it's more down to earth. Even though technically speaking, Blood on the Tracks, I mean, I could be wrong because I've only read the first 6 volumes and I'm not up to date with the manga. But as of right now, things in Blood on the Tracks, everything that happens could possibly happen in real life. Uh,
Yeah.
and the same is for Flowers of Evil, which I do like that aspect because it's a thriller, it's like a psychological,
It's a psychological thriller.
it's a psychological thriller, and it's like the crazy thing is like realistically, like this could happen in real life.
Oh yeah. There are
It's so
people who
crazy,
do
yeah.
struggle with these mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's a
and
perfect transition to our next kind of thing that we're just going to keep going into, and it's just how Shimi really goes into different topics in Flowers of Evil, especially when it comes to mental health, suicide, um, and other things like that, especially when it comes to sexuality as well. And like you mentioned before, it was like a coming of age, kids growing up and you know introducing to new things such as relationships, especially in middle school. You get a girlfriend and you're like, oh man, you gotta kiss her, this and that, and all of that. You get that, and then you deal with mental health like we were talking about before with Nakamura. And you made a great point. I would love for you to remind me of that and tell the viewers about your point with Nakamura especially, and kind of like that ending chapter, and what you were saying about like the whole other side and of it, on all of that. So I would like you to elaborate
yeah,
on that.
yeah, because what I was saying, I was talking to you before about was that this story, The Flowers of Evil, is definitely in two halves. The first half, which is really crazy, really fast paced, a lot of messed up stuff going on, and then there's the second half, which spoilers, like I said before, there's spoilers. There is a time skip in the second half, where we fast forward like what is it, like 3 years or something,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that the second half of the story is personally like just absolutely necessary to really understand what this whole manga is really about. And what it is about is like not only a coming of age story, but it delves into so many topics, one of which being, trying to find closure and
Oh yeah.
just, you know what I mean? And then like what you were saying about the about Nakamura, um, yeah, like, you kind of really see what Oshimi is trying to, say in this story with the second half, um, because it kind of you kind of get a sense that Nakamura, she is a very, you know, mentally ill character, and she's definitely going through some struggles, some mental health issues. I think that the final chapter in The Flowers of Evil is pretty much, to me at least, like a confirmation of that, because
Yeah.
you get to see, basically the beginning of the story, but through the eyes of Nakamura, and everything's all,
I thought that was a
dark.
beautiful
And
touch by Oshimi, by the way.
yeah, it's beautiful. And it really, kind of ended the story in a perfect way, because you really get to see, you get into the mind of Nakamura. And with the whole other side thing, because in the first half of the story they keep mentioning that going to this other side, and escaping, they're running away from home, running away from everything. um to me, the other side isn't like an actual place. It's more of, in the case of Nakamura, it's, to me at least, I think it's really up to interpretation, which is a great
Yeah.
thing about this manga. But to me, it's more about, you know, the other side is like a reason to live, for Nakamura. At least that's kind of how I interpreted it. And um,
Yeah.
but also, you were saying that it could also
Mean
mean
like
death.
death. And that's the thing
Yeah,
I love about
and
Flowers
I
of
think,
Evil so much is
mhm,
like you mentioned before, you can really interpret what happens and how some of the characters act and some of their mental issues that some of these characters have and their mental states, and you can interpret a lot of things into, like you mentioned before, Nakamura could be, you mentioned how to you it's like a reason to live, and I was thinking how it could be death, because especially what happens in the festival scene, uh and how like going to the other side, it could mean going to the afterlife, and it's just like so
there's no wrong
many.
answers.
Yeah, and that's what I love is that you could probably read Flowers of Evil and reread it and get something different out of it every time you read it, and that's what I
I
love about
agree.
it the most, is especially after reading that second half, and I love that you mentioned closure, because that's what really
Yes.
made it for me too, was that whole closure that
This
Kagusa
manga,
needed. Yeah.
this manga has, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying endings. Uh, Personally, I just think the way everything was executed was so perfectly. Like, I would not have changed a thing when it comes to how this manga was written. And, seeing Kasuga, are the main character,
Yeah.
um, after the time skip, he's, you know, he's still dealing with those demons from the past and everything, but
That's
he's trying to
perfect. Yeah.
change, but the thing is, he can't move on without having closure
Mhm.
from that whole situation, because he was basically taken away from that situation in the worst timing possible, like the worst time possible, which was the whole festival scene, how that ended
Yeah.
up. um he didn't even see Nakamura ever again, after that point. And he had no closure. And I think that's something that could speak to a lot of people. I think that's something that, it's just, it's something that I don't think I've ever seen in a manga really other manga that I've read that was executed like this. And the whole thing was, getting that closure at the end. It was just so satisfying.
Yeah.
It was so satisfying. So
It kind
yeah.
of sucks for me how I still have to finish reading The Promised Neverland and Demon Slayer
Mm.
eventually, like when I start reading them, and I know that those endings both suck. So I wish maybe I'll reread The Flowers of Evil after reading those, just so I have, a satisfying ending to be happy about, right? But no,
Yeah.
for sure, man. The ending of this manga was just executed to perfection, and
Hmm.
I couldn't have been happier because how you mentioned before, like how you needed to, the second half, you really understood what the first half was trying to get at. And I feel
Hmm.
like, especially for me, especially not liking that first half as much, but looking back on it now after reading the second part, I appreciated that first half for what it was, you know? And
Yeah.
that whole closure element of this story, the whole mental illness element, and everything that Oshimi did in this story was just a masterpiece, man. It made it a masterpiece, man. And
Yeah.
I couldn't
Absolutely.
have been more happy to have read a series like this. And I'm definitely gonna reread it eventually, but
Mm.
I'm gonna reread it a bunch of times, man. Like this is actually I'm not the type of person to like rewatch something like a movie or reread anything, but
Hmm.
this series for sure has rereadability written
It
all over
does.
it.
It does for sure. I mean, I read it all once. I didn't read it a second time, but I kind of pretty much
Mhm.
did some speed reading. Like I went through the entire manga again, but just kind of didn't really completely read it. Just looked at all the panels and everything, from the beginning to end, just to kind of you know just to experience it again, just be like, oh man, that was so crazy. Like, yeah, there's a lot that goes down, and just the character development, everything. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
we haven't even really talked about some of the other characters, just so well written.
Tokiwa, for
Uh,
example, in
yeah, love
Kasuga's
Tokiwa. Mm-hmm.
girlfriend towards the ending. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you see how oh, another thing we didn't even mention, man. This is why I love this story so much. Is like it has so many elements to it. Another thing that
Mm.
I interpreted from this story is really finding your own identity, right? Because Tokiwa didn't have her own identity really. She was surrounding herself with people, a boyfriend that wasn't really her. And when she met Kasuga is when she was able to finally really be herself.
Yeah.
And Kasuga also really didn't
Yeah.
know who
Oh
he
yeah,
was,
yeah.
especially like with the whole closure thing. He was able to like finally be who he really wanted to be after dealing with his demons. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's just so beautiful with this whole identity thing and everything, the closure. It's just everything gels together so well, man.
Amazing.
And
And yeah.
yeah, and another point, right, is
Mm-hmm.
you can you can read this in so many different ways. You don't even have to read the whole like series. Like well, you do the first time, but after that,
Yeah.
but after that, if I wanted to deal with like read something based on like mental health and sad things, but like sometimes you be in the mood to read stuff like that. You feel me? You
Yeah.
could read the first two omnibuses if you want something fulfilling and something with dealing with closure and something that will make you happy and smile at the end. You read omnibuses 3 and 4, because that's when the time skip happens in the beginning of 3. So that's like a
Yeah.
whole nother story in itself, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you need background, right, for the second part, but
Mm-hmm.
if you have already read it once and you want to basically read a story again, like, and you just want to read that closure, like, arc, let's just say, even though it wasn't, but you know, you read 3 and 4, and it's just, man,
It's
this
crazy,
story is
man.
just, it's just the more you talk about it, the more things you think about, and just the more you can delve into it and pickpocket more things.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
It's just a beautiful story. Um, like I said, I think, there's elements of I think Flowers of Evil because I've read, um, most of Oshimi's major works. I've read Flowers of Evil, um, some of Blood on the Tracks, all that's out physically. Also, all that's out physically of Inside Mari, and then I've read all of Happiness. And then I've also read Shino Can't Say Her Name. It's one shot.
Hmm.
I think that every single Oshimi manga has like its own theme to it. Happiness. Obviously, from the title, it's about ask questions like, oh, what is the meaning of happiness, or what happiness can mean something different to different people. Whereas Inside Mari, I think it's like heavily, about finding one's identity and things like that. And then, I mean, I don't even know what the on the tracks is trying to say.
That's just
But
about a psychotic mother, basically. You know what that could? Man, this is really going far. But for Blood on the Tracks,
this
you
is
could really say that there is a whole like fear in it. It's like like between parents and children, right? Like he had there's a fear element, a respect element there that that they have in this series, like with the son and the mother. And you'll see what I'm talking about because you're not there yet, but but that's really prevalent later on. I wouldn't say maybe respect, but it's more fear. Like he really does fear his mom. And then Flowers of Evil though.
What I was trying to say was that like Flowers of Evil kind of takes elements from all of his mangas and just kind of puts it into one, but because Flowers of Evil deals in all of that, and I think it's just like the perfect culmination of everything that I genuinely think that when he wrote the Flowers of Evil, he really just wanted to, I don't know, I could be wrong, obviously I don't know how Shuzo Oshimi himself feels about his works and everything, but I feel like just the way this was written is so masterfully written, and it was like, man, this guy, this manga was like, he was waiting all his life to write this specific manga. That's almost how it feels like to me, because it's like all of the themes and all of the things that he jams into this work. It's just crazy. But at the end of the day, it is, to me, really just about growing up, and just about it's just a coming of age story. It's just his take on a coming of age story, and it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So that is why we think The Flowers of Evil is a masterpiece. And if you did like the video, leave a like, and please check out the Oshimi god right here, Blue Tempest. Again, thank you for coming on, man. I wouldn't have done this video without him, guys. Like, he's the one that put me onto The Flowers of Evil, so who better than to have this man with me? And again,
thank you for having me, man.
Of course, man. Links to his channel, if he wants to give me his Instagram as well, in the description down below. And you know where to find me on this channel. Subscribe if you're new, close to 300. And if you want to see Blue Tempest again on the channel, let me know. I'll definitely have him again. He's a great guy to have on here. So but yeah, so if
definitely
you like
down to be on the channel again, man.
Yeah, for
thanks
sure.
again for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. So leave a like, comment what you guys think about The Flowers of Evil. Do you agree that it's a masterpiece? I would love to see what you guys interpreted from this series as well, because again, there's so many ways to interpret this series. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this was Blue Tempest and Laugh Now Die Later, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.